Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to go ahead and see how we can actually alter this value, how we can actually access the RAM where this value is located, and then alter the value of this variable. Seems like a trivial thing, right? Not a big deal. Let me go ahead and show you just how much code you require in order to conduct this so-called trivial change. Okay, so the first thing that we should do is fire up another instance of Visual Studio and go ahead and create another project. Name it whatever you like. Okay, run. There we go. So, the very first thing that I'm going to need is include windows.h. Oh my god, come on. Windows.h. Because we're going to be using Windows API, of course, since we are on a Windows platform. If you were on a Linux platform, you would be using Windows API. Okay, so next up, we're going to go ahead and create two functions. Because when you're accessing a process, you always need a handle to that process. And through that handle, then you can mess around with that process. However, that handle needs to be opened up with specific privileges. So we will also need a set privilege function. So let's go ahead and create it. Bool set privilege, and then I'm going to type in handle h token. So that's going to be the handle that we're going to pass. Oh, sorry. Privilege. Apologies there. So the first thing that this function will require is a handle, and that handle, we're just going to name it hToken. So handle is a type of a variable, and hToken is a name. If you want to use some other name, feel free. Next up, we'll need lpcstr. Okay, and we're going to give this one a very strange name, so it's going to be lps set, and I seem to have forgotten something here, so it's lpct, lpctstr, sorry. So let's go ahead and continue. Okay, so let's see, privilege, and the next one will be bool be enable oh my god, yeah, there we go. So privilege. Forgive me, it's morning and I'm having a bit of an orientation crisis here. You can put it like that. Anyway, another function which will be a bit simpler than this one, I guess, in a way, which will be calling the set privilege, will be getProcessHandle. So again, it's going to return this one is going to return a handle, and it's going to be getProcessHandle, and we're going to use dword, and it's going to be PID. Terrific. So we have two of them here, and none of them are actually implemented down below in terms of they don't have their bodies. But the general concept is that you use getProcessHandle to actually acquire a handle to a process, which you can later on use to, I don't know, access that process, mess around with it, etc. And you will use set privilege, which will be called by getProcessHandle, so that when the handle is opened, that its privileges are modified and that you get a proper handle back from the function, which you can use for certain things. Because if you open up just a handle without proper permissions, you're not going to be able to do pretty much anything you want with it. You will be very limited in your doings with it. Okay, so let me just swap them around because I don't know, I just feel like doing that. And then let's go ahead and start creating a body for getProcessHandle. Okay. As I said, there are a lot of things which I won't explain here because I did state that for this, you do need a intermediate knowledge of C++. These up here, they're just specific types for Windows that you can use. For example, dword, that's an unsigned int if I'm not mistaken, so it should be, right? Let me see. Yeah, so it's typedef as unsigned long. Repositioning myself in my chair, messing the code up by pressing random buttons on the keyboard. Anyway, let's go ahead and start building this function. So remember, this is just a demo to edit a small piece of code. But just take a look at the amount of code that we will need in order to achieve that. So let's go ahead and create a handle here. Handle h token, and we're gonna leave it completely uninitialized. And then we're gonna do this. If open process token get current process token underscore adjust underscore privileges, and we're gonna need a pipe. Privileges, and I'm gonna need a pipe here. Sorry, this is a bit of a strange keyboard. Okay, there we go. So pipe, and then I'm gonna type in token query. So I'm falsely accusing my keyboard when I'm actually being a bit clumsy. So we need token query, and then so this here is actually one argument, and after that we're going to insert another one, which will be the address of h token. So that's basically our handle. Okay, let me go back down below. Open up curly braces here, and I'm not going to do anything special here. I'll just basically print out, if it has failed, then it has failed, no big deal. Well, actually a big deal for us because we haven't managed to do what we intended to do. And let me just go ahead and perform a little bit of formatting here. And okay. So these are the three arguments that OpenProcess token will actually do. These are the three arguments that the OpenProcess will actually take, OpenProcess token. And later on, we'll actually use OpenProcess, but we're just opening a token for a process at the moment because we need to modify it prior to actually using OpenProcess. And if this fails, that means that we have, failed to open it up. So we can just do something like this. We can notify ourselves or whoever is running the program that there was a failure here. So, open token, open process token failed, and we're going to put a dot here, and then we're going to say error code, and I'm going to use the %sign u, and then I'm going to go here, put a comma, and then I will use a method called getLastError. So getLastError. Why? Well, because I would like to know why it actually failed. It's not enough that it just tells me, okay, I failed. It needs to tell me, it needs to give me the error code, and then I can look that error code up later on the MSDN and actually see what was the reason for the failure. You could have, there are several thousand error codes, if I'm not mistaken. I know there's 1,000 for sure, but it doesn't really matter how many there are, as long as you actually get the error code, you go over to the MSDN, you find that particular error code, and you see the explanation behind it, so that you at least have some sort of an idea why it has failed, because sometimes it fails due to insufficient permissions, sometimes it fails because perhaps the given process doesn't exist because you passed the wrong PID, which is process ID. You know, you could have a lot of different reasons for a failure, and you want to get that error code. Otherwise, you just know that it has failed, but you don't know why it has failed, which can save you a lot of time when debugging. Okay, so next up, we're going to go ahead and use the set privilege, which we haven't created yet, we've just declared it. So if we do something like this, so set privilege, and we're going to pass to this method, to this function h token, and we're going to do se debug name true, because we would like to have, if you're planning on editing a process RAM or messing around with it or doing code injections, etc., you will need debug privileges for that process. So whatever program you're using to conduct those tasks, that program will need to have debug privileges for that particular process which you're trying to edit. Otherwise, you will be stopped by the operating system, regardless of whether you are an admin or not. So it is very important to have this setup working and functional. Okay, so next up will be, I don't know, this time I can basically use printf again, no big deal. And I'm just gonna say set privilege failed error code. I just put it like this, and I'm gonna create a U here. And after that, I just need get last error. Perfect. So that should be fine. No need to write anything else really, just to know that I just need to know what failed and why it failed. I know what failed because I have a printf statement stating that the set privilege failed here, which will only execute if it does indeed fail. And I have get last error, which will tell me why it has failed. Well, it's going to give me an error code, which I will be able to use in order to figure out why something has failed. Anyway, next up, we're going to need to create a process handle. So we're just going to type in handle and be handle, and we're going to initialize this to the return value of open process, and we're gonna just type in here process all. Okay, so you will need process all access. Without it, none of this is gonna happen. Those are the permissions with which you're opening up the handle, and process underscore VM operation, comma 1, comma PID. Now, it is vital that you perform a check on whether or not this was a successful operation or not, because if it wasn't, the program won't crash. This will just not be what you want it to be. It won't get the value that you want it to have. So there's a very simple check to it, really. So p handle process handle, if it becomes equal to 0. I would like you to once again just create this simple printout. And I'll just do this to save a bit of time here. Okay. Finally, if it actually works out and stuff like that, if it works, you know, you can just return handle. Okay, truth be told, this is probably not the best way to conduct error checks and fail safes, because you see what's going to happen is that this printf is just going to print this out. It's not going to exit the function, and the b handle will be returned no matter what, whether it's valid or not. But you will get a warning here that it wasn't functional. I tried to keep the function as simple as possible, but that meant cutting a bit of corners, but no big deal. I mean, it's just a test run. If you get an error, if you're unable to open a handle, you're gonna get a printout, and then that printout is gonna say, "Hey, mate, you have a problem here. You know, you should attend to this before you go any further." Okay, so I'm gonna basically pause it here, and in the next tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and write the set privilege. Once we do that, then we're gonna attempt to open up a handle and write to the RAM location of the. We're gonna attempt to write to the RAM location of the variable health and see if we can actually change it. But you see, we just want to change health, and you can see how much code we have piled up. So not a lot still, but we're still one function away. We need to create it, and then we need to create a bit more code to actually be able to edit that RAM location. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bid you farewell here, and I'll hope to see you in the follow-up tutorial where we will continue with set privilege.